breakneck speed yet, not Formula One variety, but they are turning, and they're turning faster than they used to turn under previous governments. Good evening and welcome to Face to Face. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Niresh Eliyatambi. My guest tonight is the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. Welcome, Harshana.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we started this year, 2025, with you on Face to Face on the 1st of January. And here you are, back again, just 2.5 months later. And of course, we have a lot of aspects which the public want to know details about. And I'm going to throw these at you, and hopefully you can answer as many of them to the public satisfaction. Now, let's start with the elephant in the room. Batalanda, the Batalanda Commission report, which came up very surprisingly after lying dormant for goodness knows more than a quarter of a century. All of a sudden it was thrown up for all the world to see on Al Jazeera, where former President Ranil Wickremesinghe was being interviewed. So whatever you may think of that interview, that's not the point. The point is what is going to happen now. Harshana, after the tabling in Parliament of the Batalanda Commission report, what happens then? Just take us through the process. And this is not about former President Ranil Wickremesinghe or any particular person. This is about the process. And the reason I'm asking you this is that, well, the public deserves to know, especially with these older cases, which stand out because of their horrific nature, what can be done and what is the process which must go forward?
Thank you, Niresh. Well, yes. Now, I think one of the main reasons why we thought we'll table it was also because of one of the answers of Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe in the interview, saying it has never been tabled in the Parliament, so it's not a public document. That is not correct because it was public ever since even the BBC journalists had it. So we thought, let's table it. Now, when you table it, the normal process, not just the Batalanda one, but we are looking into some other commissions. Because there have been many commissions appointed, but it appears they are lying dormant. So we are doing a stock taking of all of them, including Batalanda specifically. So after the tabling, there are a couple of ways we can go, but let's see what the Parliament is have to say and debate and everything. We'll see what we have to do. But the normal course will be to refer the material to the Honourable Attorney General to see whether any criminal cases could be preferred or any other offence that is being disclosed, because commissions are not there to punish. The normal law has to take course. But again, having said that, you very correctly pointed out, when cases are old, what happens?
It's very difficult.
What happens with the time?
You can solve a murder within 24 hours, and then with each day which lapses, the trail goes cold.
The trail is basically, the passage of time really erases a lot of evidence. Could be documents, it could be CCTV footage, it could be some other forensic item.
Witnesses
could die as well. So, and also there's another legal issue, that is, except for murder, when if there's a crime of torture or we'll say any other criminal offense, now it's time barred to prosecute. So therefore, it has to be for murder. Now, we know what happened in Batalanda, horrific details. But again, I'm not saying impossible, but unearthing the evidence that is required to prove a case beyond reasonable doubt is going to be a difficult task. But if it has to be done, I'm sure the Attorney General will do so with all the support. And also, if you look at it, I mean, at that time, I mean, nobody would have kept the documents. There wouldn't have been CCTV, right? So all those things we have to take into account, but that is the normal course of action or any other thing that is decided. But what is more important here is to make this statement loud and clear. Batalanda is real. It did happen. Ranil was involved. In fact, he asked for it. We wouldn't have tabled if he answered, he pretended that, it's not a public document. So we thought we should table it and let the public decide on things. And also the other commissions, we have to take stock and proceed. That's the plan.
Well, as a older journalist who has been in this game for more than 35 years, I can tell you Batalanda was real. So was Suryakanda, Chemmani, Mullaitivu, Hokandara, Matale, Mana, so many horrific torture camps, death camps, which were very real. And we, the journalists and the activists of that time, saw these with our own eyes back then. So these were very real and no one can deny them. The issue is in assigning culpability and proving it in a court of law to
beyond reasonable doubt.
Beyond reasonable doubt, and it's not like a civil case. You absolutely have to prove it to the highest levels of evidence, because you are talking about if someone, even in a normal murder, that's a capital offense. You're sentencing a man to death. So you need to be absolutely clear.
Yeah, and talking about these mass graves, and also with the Ministry of Integration, we have a missing persons unit in the Ministry of Integration. This time from the budget, except for Chemna, I can't remember exactly. Most of the other sites, we budget allocated some money to keep those places safe for evidence to be protected, because that was a requirement of the international community as well, and we have kept some budget money to protect those places. I can't remember exactly, but about 3 or 4. We found one mass grave in Colombo also, no?
Absolutely.
So those matters are now being taking place.
Well, it is very important to ensure that the graves are not tampered with even at this late stage, which leads me to the next question. Back then, Harshana, Sri Lanka didn't have DNA evidence gathering mechanisms. They existed in Western countries, but not here. So I'm talking about the early 90s. And even had they existed, the governments of the day, my guess would be they would not have allowed them to be used. But today, the DNA evidence gathering and testing mechanisms are here. And our forensic scientists have had a lot more experience with these sort of mass graves and so on than they had back in the 90s. Worldwide, that is so. Now, given the fact that the graves are still there, in most cases, Suryakanda, for example, supposedly 300 bodies buried there. The bodies are still there. They were never removed. And the same goes for many other graves. So even at this late stage, shouldn't the investigative authorities, which is not the Minister of Justice, but we're talking the CID, the police and the AG's department, shouldn't they be reopening those cases and doing whatever they can as far as technology, including DNA evidence, allows them to, so that they can then gather whatever fresh evidence they can. After that, if it's not enough, it's not enough.
Yeah, it's like you're right, because now the technology is available, the modern technology is there. So therefore, all options must be made available to the investigating officers to do so. And again, now let's say, I do not know exactly what stages and how we are going to do it. Let's assume that we dig mass grave A. I will not tell names. I don't want to create controversy. We will be able to figure out, right, that people were tortured to death, say for an example. But then you have to link a human being who did it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Now that's where the difficult task comes, because whatever goes on media or even papers or public knowledge, we jolly well know who did what, sometime when names come up. But the court will ask us to prove it beyond reasonable doubt, and whether these people are even in existence now. So the older a case gets, the more difficult it is to prove in a court of law. And be honest with you, now there's quite a lot on our plate at the moment. You told something nice when you're starting. Wheels of justice are moving, but slowly. You're right. Slow, but steady. Right? Because this government has the political will to pursue these things. Right? Right now, we are looking at a few cases around between 2009 and 2015. And it has become very difficult because, as you know, with the passage of time, evidence tend to dry out. So with greatest difficulty, we are gathering them. So we have to kind of use and also we have figured out a few cases. I mean, we promised that in our election platforms. What did we promise? What we promised was investigation, finding evidence, and presenting them in court. Now, for an example, the Krish case, right, which was 2015. We have brought it to court. Daisy Frost money laundering with Yoshida, it has been brought to court, and a few other cases are on the pipeline. But what we do, as you can see, most of these arrests, we arrest them and we give them bail. No fanfare. Why? Arresting is a part of a process to start the serving of the indictment. So you will see the old cases are coming through. The new ones, nothing is happening. New ones, no corruption, no waste is happening so far. If it is so, it can be done even faster, right? So yes, you're right, we have to prioritize, but with the resources available, we will continue, and whatever there is technology, we will be using them.
Now, just one last question on the issue of these death camps and mass graves. Of course, prosecution is one aspect of it, but may I put it to you that the more important aspect is closure for the family members of people who disappeared.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That if they can be told, yes, your loved one's remains have been found, DNA has matched it, at least they know that their loved one is no more. Prosecution is a whole different matter.
No, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because especially in the north, as well as in the south,
so they are all over the country.
Closure is very, very important. And that's why that my ministry, the Office of National Unity and Reconciliation, I would appointed the board now. We are working out on a few projects to, bring back, because after 30 years of war and 2019 to 2022, those units were just there as namesake because there was no political will. So we are in the process with the ONUR, I call them ONUR, ONUR, and OMP, and Office of Reparation. So we have a role to play to build this trust, to bring closure. So projects will be designed accordingly, and we will be proceeding with them, because closure is important, as you said, and we are very well aware of it, and that is more important sometimes than the prosecutions.
Well, that's very good to hear, and the next time that you come on this show, I'm sure you will have more to say on these topics. Yeah. So that's very good. Now, Harshana, let's talk about more regular issues of justice. And you spoke about this on the 1st of January when we were on this show. The various issues faced by all these departments, and you have many departments attached to or under your purview.
Correct.
How many is it exactly?
24.
24, okay.
Includes the Attorney General's Department and the Judicial Service Commission also.
Yes, but the Aegis Department and the Judicial Services Commission, although you
it's under my ministry, they are independent.
They are independent. You can't issue instructions to them
not at all.
Saying, Attorney General, prosecute this one or that one.
That I can't.
You can't do it. Yeah. Although in the past,
it happened.
Where not just the Justice Minister, but all kinds of ministers would call up the Attorney General.
This is what we promised to change, no, Niresh? Yes. So we set the example now.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah. Now, having said that, you need a fully functional Aegis department. So let's start with the Aegis department. And the problems are huge, I know. Prosecutors, how many prosecutors do you have?
Okay, fine. Thank you for asking that question. Now, those who are listening to this at home, please don't think of this as I'm trying to give an excuse. I'm only going to brief the reality, and I consider it as a challenge, not an obstacle to do what we do. Problem is, out of my 24 departments, altogether, there are 6,000 odd vacancies to be filled.
6,000 vacancies.
6,000 odd. My biggest problem is the Attorney General's department. If you look at it, there are 15,000, 20,000 files, right? Now, AG's department, I brought the statistics here for you. The approved card is 459. These are council, legal. I mean, not the drivers or clerks or others.
459 approved card.
Approved card, and there's only 209.
209.
And out of them, only 93 are working on the criminal prosecutions, which means they have to appear in court, go through files and advise and draft charges, assist the police, everything by 93 people, and at least 15,000, 20,000 cases. Right? Now, this didn't happen overnight. My entire sector collapsed. At least a couple of, I won't blame on one government, at least 15, 20, 30 years? No, at least 15 years.
Well, Harshana, we have, over the last couple of decades, we have seen the deliberate undermining of the pillars of democracy.
Of course.
We've seen, I mean, we in the media saw the ferocious attacks on the media to completely demoralize and weaken the Fourth Estate.
Obviously.
But quite apart from us, the judiciary was weakened, the police and all its major units were weakened, the CID, then CIABOC, the Bribery Commission,
everything.
AG's department. This was all, you know,
that is
a sinister master plan over several regimes.
You could say that because we are the only party who wants this machinery to work. Why? Because we want the culprits brought before court. But the previous regimes, for the last 15, 20 years, I would say, right? They were happy with the delays. You have a case, you drag on for 3, 4, 5 years and go off. Now, humanly, it's impossible for 93 prosecutors to do it. Now, the challenge is this. Let's assume that I get 200 more today prosecutors. But for them to become fully blown prosecutors to prosecute a complex case of a white collar fraud, you need at least 5 to 6 years. So I've called for a meeting with the AG. Hopefully I'll assist him to figure out a way out of it. And also if you look at government analyst department, right? Now that's the place where you get all the reports, forensic evidence that you need. And they are short of, I'll tell you, I'm getting about a few. I mean, luckily the budget has approved most of this cadre. Now, if you look at the government analyst department, 118 vacancies, right? So what has happened? Why we are slow?
Because these are highly skilled professional positions.
And also their salary scale is not the best. Hopefully the salary increase will do something. And during the last year, 28 prosecutors have left, senior prosecutors. This year I heard 6 are retiring. See, with the economic crisis, many professionals with these qualifications, they left. So job satisfaction, just imagine this 93 State Council. I mean, they work on Sundays, they work on Saturdays. That's why sometimes I get upset when people criticize the AG unnecessarily for delaying. They don't know the truth of it. Nobody told this truth either. And there are 1.1 million cases in the court system. It's chock-a-blocked, right? I'm saying, please, the listeners, don't get upset. This is a reality, but we are going to work to change it. We got a budget approved. We got 753 cadre essential that we have asked for, and we'll get them. We are getting new judges. We have to open up because otherwise this is not going to happen. So we are on the ball, but the delay is mainly due to qualified manpower issue. Why I say qualified? Some places are overstaffed.
Right.
But the skilled jobs are left vacant.
Yes.
And for the last 2 years, there has been no recruitment whatsoever. And when you have a court, it's not just the prosecutor. You need the steno. You need the court staff. You need the record room staff. You need the registrar. So,
which are all skilled positions.
All skilled positions. All skilled positions, because you can't just, just do that. So we are talking with the JSC because we are definitely with a targeted intervention, we will be able to pull this one through. But those cases, there are a couple of cases, criminal cases, we are focusing on at least over 20 at the moment. Investigation ongoing, and when they're done, one by one, the cases will come. And one by one, cases will be heard. And one by one, justice will be done.
Excellent. So once again, wheels of justice are turning slowly,
but rusted at the moment. But let's oil it.
the road is uphill,
very uphill, and also it's like you see, although the government is new, the government servants are not new. So some of their work culture and ethic. I mean, for an example, I shouldn't be saying it, but I feel sometimes there's a sense of frustration because we work fast, But the state machinery moves quite slowly and produce results in a very slow fashion. So we hope to get that up and running as well.
Well, that's a whole different ball game, and a lot has to go into that, digitalization and so on.
Started.
Excellent.
Rapid digitalization program, which was stopped in 2021. I've appointed a committee with Justice Harshana Nanayakkara. We have given a 40-week deadline target to achieve. We have taken Kandy Courts Complex as well as Negombo for the rapid digitization program with the Ministry of Digital Affairs. So one way of speeding up matters or reducing the case log and saving human resources, time, will be the digitalization. So stage one, hopefully we'll be able to see within 40 weeks, that's the target. And it has already been started.
Now, although there are all these constraints, we are seeing some high-profile cases being filed, which we are not used to in this country. We have cases which were filed against Namal Rajapaksa, Yoshita Rajapaksa, and several other former ministers, and we're not used to this. So how is this happening? Because you're not exactly calling up the AG and saying, no, prosecute this one and that one. But of their own accord, the investigators and the AG are now perhaps breathing a little freer.
All we did was a simple thing. We allowed the police to do their job. We allowed the AG to do his job. In fact, you talk to any cop that you might know and ask, has there ever a MP or a minister calling them, the police, and telling them do this, do that, release him, arrest him? We don't. Remember, police, okay, fine, there may be corrupt individuals. I'm not saying no. But you let them have their dignity and let them do their job. My job as a Minister of Justice is to make sure that people are independent and free, and I am supposed to provide them resources. So what you're seeing right now is what we promised. Now, even right now, you can see the IGP is, somewhat hiding. I mean, has there been a situation where the IGP has been hiding from the police before? If there was another government, probably he would have surrendered because, after a couple of weeks, some fanfare, he goes off. But for us, the law is for everyone, and it'll take time. The public may be still, a little impatient and not trusting us on occasions due to fake news being circulated. But I tell you, give us about a year or two, you will see we are delivering what we promised. So the arrest for the high-profile cases is not that we are forcing anybody. These cases have been lying down, and now the investigators are taking them over. I mean, we have no personal interest in any of these matters, except for the promise we gave the people to uphold the independence of the judiciary and the rule of law.
Let's focus a little bit more on the challenges of the older cases. And, it's even if a case was in, let's say, 2015, that's 10 years ago. So the trail grows very, very cold, doesn't it?
It does.
And especially in a country where people migrate out of here, and proper records are not kept. It's not easy, is it?
It's not easy, but we do have about 12 or 13 focusing at the moment, which are more than 10 years old. Fortunately, some of the evidence is still available. And some witnesses who left the country out of fear of death are willing to return. Right? And I'm bringing in a new, it'll come soon, the amendment to the Criminal Procedure Code, where you can give evidence via audio-visual link. So even if you're overseas, now many people don't want to come to Sri Lanka. No. You can use that particular law which we are bringing in soon, hopefully within a month or two, to do that. So it'll make things fast. And yes, it's very difficult when it dries out, but we've given a promise to people. We are going to investigate. We are never saying no to anything. We'll continue to push, find the evidence, and prosecute. And also, that is completely an independent decision on the part of the Attorney General. He has to decide. But we'll make, and trust me, when you allow these government offices to work independently, they produce better results than anybody imagined. We don't know that. Why? We have never seen them working that independently before, but they are now. So absolutely. I'm 100% confident, although things move a little slower, I'm 100% confident things are moving on the right direction.
Now, apart from human resources, or the lack of human resources, what else do you need to give these departments I'm assuming vehicles, training opportunities. What else do you actually need?
They need job satisfaction. Job satisfaction. They're human too. Just imagine when there are 1.1 million cases, each judge has to hear about 4,000 cases. Now just imagine about 60 to 70 judges are on a waiting list for a vehicle. We can't give them any because there are no vehicles, right? They are being given an allowance. So you need to, on the one hand side, give them, I mean, just because there's a judge, you need the building, you need the office furniture, you need the laptop, you need the printers. All those things are necessary. But on top of that, trainings, very necessary. And whenever you give it a training, it's pointless giving a training if the ground reality is that they can't work. If the photocopy machines are broken. I mean, for the last 2 years, especially in English, things have not been moving at all. They have just been a standstill, and it appears that the government servants for the last 2 years have been working from one salary to another without much of a hope of, it was so uncertain. So I think a couple of things. First, we have to create better working condition. 2, training, and come up with new strategies to get the best out of human beings. Now, for an example, we have 19 judges per 1 million population. But in a developed country where things are moving better, is between 30 to 40 judges per 1 million. I mean, for us to get that kind of European level of justice working, then we might have to have a budget also European level, which is not the case. So, without complaining about what we don't have, my job is to make sure that we take policy decisions to stop corruption and waste and create efficiency. But ultimately, judge or steno or just the normal staffer, if there's no job satisfaction, they're not going to perform. So I have to make sure that the courts become yet again a place where people like to work. Present salary scale doesn't really help either. So, but that's what I tell them. We as ministers and MPs, we have set an example by not taking any perk, but just biting the bullet. So we ask all citizens and even the workers in these places, just hold on for 1 or 2 years. Things will get better.
Right. Let's look at one aspect which you touched on, which is new legislation. You spoke of an amendment to the penal code. But what about other acts? Let's see, Proceeds of Crime Act.
I tabled it to the parliament. First reading went through.
Yes.
First reading went through. Second reading might come in April due to the budget. So the Proceeds of Crime bill is there. And also there are about 15 to 20 different laws that we have kept to bring in. One of them is the Insolvency Ordinance. The Audit Act need to be amended. And those 3 will come out first. And that brings me to the other problem to tell you about understaffing. That is the Legal Draftsman Department. They're having no proofreaders. And when I tell them, give me the thing fast, then they tell me this much. I'll tell you. 1 second, please. Yeah, they are short of 60 people.
60 people in the legal draftsman.
And what they're telling me, legal draftsman. So I need them functioning. Otherwise, who's going to draft all these laws in 3 languages and send me? So as you can see, these are all interconnected. But machine is slow because everywhere it's supposed to be working, it's not working due to lack of resources, lack of human resources mainly. So now I'm taking some urgent action with regard to getting them proper staffing. So yes, there are a couple of things coming. The ones I want to like to remember is the Proceeds of Crime, this Criminal Procedure and Civil Procedure Amendment, which will go a long way helping delays in cases. Absolutely. Because no longer will you have to come to the court to give evidence. Even you remember that court shooting that happened?
Yes.
Now with this law, the prisoner himself can be in the cell and give evidence from there. In fact, out of the high courts, we have given, I have the details here, we have given audiovisual equipment for about, out of the 34 high courts island-wide, we have given 24 high courts the audiovisual linkage. So I think that will go a long way towards making courts safe. I mean, even if you take a government analyst, they have to travel from Colombo from here to Ampara to give evidence. So they take 2 or 3 days on the road to go and come back. So when you have this, they will give evidence from where they are in Colombo. So that will save their time, so they can attend to more of their work with regard to preparing reports. If you look at it, I'll tell you about a very serious matter. That is the number of cases they got for examination of government analysis reports. 1 second. Sorry, I don't have it with me. When I find it, I'll tell you.
So while you're looking
yes, I will tell you. I'm sorry, sir.
We'll take a short commercial break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. We are with the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara.
Every day, millions face the impossible. What happens when clean water feels out of reach? When an entire village is left helpless? When it seemed like no one is listening, Gammadda saw the need. Gammadda took action and a community fought back. A water purification system for a village that once had none. Gammadda, for the people, by the people.
This is my
Hopefully it my last.
My dear friends, here we are, all in our true colors. Kita pakai pasio kitu dan vuliki.
Prefect, Saturday and Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on TV1.
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are with Harshana Nanayakkara, who used to be just an attorney at law, but he is the Minister of Justice and National Integration, which is very much a seat of very high responsibility, because we, the people, are counting on him and the government to achieve great things indeed. Now, you were talking about the government analyst department and the lack of resources, and once again, it is a damning indictment on the part of successive regimes that the justice system has been left to rot in such a fashion, which can be, in my opinion, nothing but intentional. But there's no point in crying over spilt milk.
This is what we inherited.
Let's see what the situation is.
Basically, in
government
2024, in 2024, government analysts has received over 64,000 cases for examination, and there are only 78 officers.
64,000 in 1 year.
1 year. And there are only 78 officers. That means each officer has to attend to about 800 reports.
So I am guessing here that many of these cases would be drug related.
Mostly, about 54% of them are drug related.
Right, because
and this also,
each time that a person is arrested with drugs, then you can't just simply say that he's got this white powder. You have to have a government analyst report stating that this is heroin or cocaine or whatever.
You can't file action or even file a bail application as it stands without the government analyst report. And the biggest reason for the congestion of the remand prisons is also this. So we are recruiting about 16 for the time being. We are working around the budget, but we are working on it because these are the issues we are having for it to be Formula One speed,
Absolutely. Now, Harshana, you mentioned two bills, the insolvency bill. That's very interesting because in Sri Lanka, if you go bankrupt, there is no way out at the moment. But in many countries around the world, there is a system which allows you to get back on your feet. So is this it? Is this what the insolvency bill is going to do?
Well, the insolvency law we had was quite dated and old, and it was not addressing all the issues of the modern economic realities. And also, if you look at ease of doing business index, out of 190 countries, Sri Lanka is the 99th place, right? So what is important is that there to be a closure. So the act is aimed, it's up to international standards. Act is aimed at having for corporate as well as personal insolvency a proper regime, a regular regime, that when the bankruptcy proceedings are over, there won't be, continuously that fellow getting hammered with cases. We'll bring some form of a closure. So the idea is that he will get back into business. This is very important to bring in investor confidence, because people are not going to come and invest if they have a regime which is outdated and you have to go into court for years and decades. So this is one of those things which is very important for the economy, to have this proper updated law on insolvency.
I think also this would apply to the small and medium industries.
Yes, corporate and personal.
Yes, so there are hundreds of thousands of small businesses which went bankrupt during first COVID and then the economic debacle.
This is a regulated regime where a defaulter will not be completely ruined or crushed to the ground, but give him another chance to come back to work. It's about efficiently finishing things off so that person can restart his business with the right approach.
Which of course is an absolute requirement for the national economy.
This is one of the main reasons why we are pushing this forward as an urgent matter.
What about the audit bill that you mentioned? What's
Audit
that
Act
about?
is also about accountability and transparency. Again, it's about ease of doing business. And what we are doing is we are bringing them up with the international standards, so things will be more transparent and auditable. That if you look at the proceeds of crime, Audit Act, as well as this, are extremely important for the economic drive to go through, for raising investor confidence. So this is why we are really focusing on those three laws to bring them fast.
Excellent news indeed. Very happy to hear this. But now let's look at some of these other contentious laws which previous regimes have abused, basically. And let's talk about the PTA, the Prevention of Terrorism Act, which has been used for, well, terrorism, yes, but to stifle political parties, including yours, and to stifle freedom and dissent all around the country. And this is something, of course, which we all agreed was, well, barbaric. From 1979, this was a temporary law.
Yeah.
What is to become of this?
Well, we are going to keep on to our promise of abolishing the PTA. So I put up a cabinet paper appointing a committee. We have named a committee, an initial committee. We don't want to drag it for too long. The president says, bring in the new law, bring it fast. And that new law has to meet, there's threat of global terrorism, there are modern challenges. And also at the same time, a lot of countries have these laws, but in a way that the freedoms of the individual is not compromised. So in order to achieve that, we are going to, because there's so much of groundwork has been done for decades on this. So I'm sure there's plenty of material. But what I suggested to the cabinet was, without making the consultation group huge, then it takes a long time to come with a final one, go with a technical committee of our own stakeholders, and then prepare a white paper. It's very important to have a consultation process. When the white paper is ready, then we can release to the public and the civil society to bring in their ideas. And we are hoping to do it fast. So that process is moving at the moment with the PTA.
Excellent news indeed. Of course, I'm sure you can't exactly give a timeline because these things...
It's in the hands of a committee and it's just about starting. So I just got the cabinet paper through. So, but I'm hoping it will be fast, because even the president doesn't want it to be late too much, because this is one of the promises we gave. So,
right. What about the OSA, the Online Safety Act? Again, a bugbear of the Newsfirst and the media. We did a lot of focusing on this. We actually got it changed drastically before it was passed in Parliament. Yeah. But even what was passed in Parliament was not at all satisfactory. And even the then government admitted this and said they are going to amend it. And I believe that you are looking at amending this as well.
Yeah, definitely, because you see, we were in the opposition, we were against this law too, because it was touching on the civil liberties and freedom of expression of the people. And also that was a very rushed law, just duplicating a few offences from the
Singaporean law, yes.
Singapore. If they got the right ones, I'm happy. They just pick pieces of the penal code in this country and remove all the safety features that you found in the Singaporean one, right? So, firstly, we as a policy basis, we agree there should be an Online Safety Act, cyberbullying, revenge porn. There are a lot of things, the cyberspace hurting the individual. So, therefore, we must have it, but with the safety features included. So, now there were 37 odd amendments suggested at the Supreme Court level. So if you bring all the 37 amendments, it looks as if it's a new law altogether. So whether we use the word amended or new law, it has to be brought into what it should be. So therefore, now the thing is, this particular subject is now with the Ministry of Health and Mass Media, this particular act. So I think the three of us will discuss very soon. We are on a policy basis in agreement, we have to bring in a new law. But this current law is also still there, because it's working and people are filing cases on that. So we are not going to touch whatever is existing. But bringing in the new law, I haven't been able to appoint the committee on that yet. But we did one, civil society got together Factum, and they were of the view that this has to go, and we are also of the view they have to go. But the current law is there as it is. So it has to be brought up, because I think increasingly, Nilesh, cyberspace is very badly misused to spread rumors and hurt people.
Oh, absolutely.
So therefore it has to be
undeniable.
I mean, freedom of expression is another. That's granted. We don't even have to talk about it. But when you're using that space to hurt and attack individuals, those people also should have some law to remedy the situation. So that's where the two bills are at the moment.
Excellent. And one more bill or act, the ICCPR Act, which it's a global convention.
Yeah.
It was meant to prevent or to protect minorities, including religious minorities and so on. But what our governments in the past have done is to use this act to actually stifle dissent. And there were several amendments to the International Convention which were not brought in, to my knowledge, to our own act. So the ICCPR Act in Sri Lanka has been used to lock up comedians, poets, writers, and so on. And that was not its intention at all globally. Yeah. What about this? What about some amendments for this?
No, I mean, it's actually good that you raised it now. You can see the PETA, there's inherently something wrong, so you need to do it. Online safety, there's something inherently wrong with it, so you have to attend to it. But the ICCPR, I mean, there could be errors in it, but no one has so far come up saying change this bit and change that bit. So ICCPR inherently is not faulty. But laws are like the butter knife, you see. Now a butter knife can be used for the innocent purpose of applying butter. But you can stab someone too with the same knife. So it's not the knife that is a problem, but in whose hands is it in? The previous regimes used it like to stifle. But our regime, we can use the same law for the purpose it was intended to be used. So, but still I'm not saying law should not be amended. But at this very moment, I cannot make my mind up as to which paths should be done, because it has not been raised before. I can assure you one thing, neither the PTA, neither online safety, neither this, we will use to stifle the freedom of speech. Because you know why? People voted us in large numbers because they are allowed to express their freedom. And today they have all the rights to criticize us and keep us in line, keep us in the promises that we made. So therefore no stifling of freedom of speech, not by our party anyway.
Excellent. And finally, prison system reforms. This is a huge area, and I mean, if you look at the overcrowding of prisons, I think it's something like 300 to 400% overcrowded, which is a terrible situation indeed. Where if your prison was built for 10,000 people, and you've got
10,395 people,
yes.
now occupied by 30,000 people.
So
And out of them, about 19,000 are remandees. And the conditions are appalling. I visit these places. So now what is the answer? To build more and more buildings? Short term we might have to. But the answer is finding ways to get them out. Most of the people who are there, because they can't pay a particular fine, right? It's poverty. So when the poverty is increasing, you can't put the entire population in there. So I have appointed a committee to look into the easing, because there are a lot of things you can do to reduce the congestion. For an example now, using community-based corrections when they can't pay a fine. So we are trying to bring an amendment where when you can't pay a fine, normally you're supposed to go to prison. No? So I have proposed to bring an amendment to the law to say, right now the magistrate has no other option but to send him to prison. But with this new amendment, I don't know whether I'm going to bring it to the Community-Based Corrections Act or the Criminal Procedure Code, magistrate will have the option to give a community correction service order, because if it is small one, depending. So
now,
we have to.
When you say community correction, is it community service by the
Sort of, yeah. Community-based correction is where, without incarcerating a person, depending on the seriousness of, if it's less than 2 years, you can get a community correction order if you're a first-time offender and the circumstances and the chance of reform and everything. So that is something we have to encourage a lot. And also finish off this government and this department business and get about 7,000 will come out. And the others don't need to be in here. They need to be in a health facility. See, they're users of the drug. They're not dealers of the drug. So they're not going to be rehabilitated here. So, and there's a massive cost. And right now there are overflowing drainages problem, sewer issues, health issues. These people, short term we might have to expand capacity. In fact, we are trying to take it to Horanan or Kalikadawan. But for me as a Minister of Justice, I feel getting them out. I mean, if you can't pay a fine, why is there a fine for an offence? Because it's not serious enough for you to go to prison. But when you default a fine, you end up in prison for an offence that you shouldn't have been in the prison in the first place. So there are a lot of issues. I'll wait for my committee report to come. That is one of the first committees I appointed to find ways to reduce congestion, including amending parts of the Criminal Procedure Code to help that.
Now, one thing that strikes me is that what are the best practices from other countries where prison overcrowding is concerned? And now specifically you mentioned that 19,000 of the 30,000 are remand
is from what I remember.
So is it not possible for those who are in for non-violent crimes to use technology? I believe in Western countries you have various collars and wristbands which are radio activated, things like that.
Yeah, these are the things that we have to look at, because unlike those days, now the technology is available, right? It's just that we have to come across, because those who should be in remand are the most serious ones, where if you release them, they might hamper the course of justice, right? Or they are a threat to themselves or danger to the society, not the others. So therefore, yes, we have to, that's why I'm waiting for the committee reports, right? To see what we can do, because this situation is dire inside the prisons. And even prison staff is under tremendous pressure. It's impossible when you go and look at it. So therefore, I'll be taking very fast action, and including the electronic tagging. I mean, there are discussions, a lot of discussions, but nothing has happened. No decisions have been taken. So we as a government, we will take decisions, but not just on our own, based on policy and science. It might take some time, but this is an urgent matter we need to attend to.
And finally, a personal question. I know that having been in touch with you for several years, you had a flourishing law practice.
Yeah.
You left that and you came into what is essentially public service.
Yep.
What is your day like?
Well, hectic is one word I can explain it with. Hectic. tired, lot of work to be done.
What time do you wake up and start working?
As a habit, I wake up a little early, around 3:34.
3:34.
Yeah, and then
So I know
try
what
to
time
sleep
to call
by
you
8.
now. Okay.
That's why if you call me around, don't tell others, they'll call me at the same time. That is the time meant for my reading and everything. It's tiring. It's very stressful because it appears that, things have been, we're just beginning and it's like the Gaza Strip sometimes, So, but the only joy we have is that we know in our hearts that we took this as social service. I gave up my practice. I gave up my income, which I led not a very rich life, but a fairly comfortable one. But still, I don't regret that because I feel we gave a promise to people. We have to deliver it. So I feel more like a social worker, not even like a public worker. I work 7 days of the week till about today. Today was very pleasant because I was with you. Otherwise, I'll be stuck somewhere till about 9:30 normally. So that's how personal life has changed a lot. I don't regret. I'm not upset. I'm not unhappy. But am I tired? Boy, yes, I am.
Yes, indeed. And I do believe that our viewers especially would appreciate your efforts and others like you. What about your ministry? Now, I know, and this I think will be the final question because we are almost out of time. There was an issue which you mentioned last time about the premises, the rental of the premises and the building itself, because the Ministry of Justice doesn't have its own building.
Yes, we are paying serious amounts of money because almost all the departments are being rented. Even the Ministry of Justice for 7.2 million a month. But our good president, you know what he did? I put a cabinet paper. We got a particular building approved. 3,500 million was approved by the budget. So we have awarded the contract. So God willing and hopefully in about another year or 1.5 years time, we'll have near the BCC land.
That's right.
In that place, we are putting up a Ministry of Justice building. And when that happens, because now the money has been allocated, I was trying to tell you exact details, but it's not here. We'll be able to move into that and probably stop a recurring expenditure of about 80 million a month for all departments.
Again, it's hard for me not to believe that this was not intentionally done by previous regimes to simply, that's where our money went. No wonder
they love hiring buildings.
Yeah, no wonder this country, the government of Sri Lanka under previous regimes went bankrupt because they were doing things like this.
Now I'm inside the ministry. I go through the books. I've seen what previous people have done. Now I'm surprised why we did not go bankrupt earlier.
I mean, if one were to do a Google search, it would be very hard to find any other country where the Ministry of Justice doesn't have its own building.
Same thing for most of the other ministries also. At this point, I have to tell all my colleagues in the cabinet are working as hard as me and working as tirelessly as me, and all of us are having the same problems in different levels in all our ministries. So it's not just the Ministry of Justice. I just want the people to be a little patient with us. Results will be delivered.
And I'm afraid that's all the time we have with the Minister of Justice and National Integration, Harshana Nanayakkara. Thank you very much for being with us once again.
Thank you for having me, Niresh. Enjoyed it.
And I will be calling you in a couple of months' time to come and brief our viewers as to what progress has been made. And I must say, from the 1st of January, when you were last here, up to today, there has been some remarkable progress. So thank you very much. And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next. Have a great evening.